Hi, Steve.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Steve.
Hiya.
As it's Becky was just saying, we've had quite a lot of apologies because of capacity issues right across the sector and system at the moment, but we're going to record on request so we can share as usual with those who can't make it. I'll leave you to let people in, Becky. So because it's not a huge meeting, I think it is worth doing a quick round robin introductions. When they're very big, we don't, otherwise that'll take the whole meeting. But hi, Lee. We're just saying we're just going to do, as there are not huge numbers today, we'll do quick introductions and we're recording. So I think I've just about met everybody. I'm not sure I've met you, Nikki. Hi. I'm Andrea Birch. I'm the CEO at Bassetlaw CVS. Over to Lee, my co-chair today.
Hello, I'm Lee Adele, Programme Director, Bassetlaw Place-Based Partnerships and Deputy Locality Director, NOTS ICB. Am I nominating next? We're just going to nominate the next one.
Yeah.
Would you like me to go down my list? Because that's sometimes a bit easier. Is that easy if I take over? So if I'll just go in alphabetical order as you come. It's normally by first name. So Brian, I'm going to come over to you next, please.
Hi everyone, it's Brian Marshall. I work for the Sleep Charity, where we offer sleep support for families. So anyone up to the age of 25 with the necessary paperwork. But yeah.
Thank you. Welcome, Brian. I should have said I'm Becky Law. I'm head of service here at BCVS. I always forget. I kind of know everybody and then forget to introduce myself. I'll go over to Noel, because you come under F for Focus on Young People in Bassetlaw. Noel, you're next.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm Noel Barron and I'm the development manager for a charity based in Worksop that serves Bassetlaw, called Focus on Young People in Bassetlaw.
Thank you. Jane, we're just doing some quick introductions. If I can just come over to you, please.
Hi, I'm Jane Bullock, Preventative Services Manager at Bassetlaw Action Centre.
Lovely, thank you very much. And then Kate, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Baxter. I'm the Chief Exec of the Children's Bereavement Centre.
Thank you, Kate. And to Mark, please.
Oh, is that me?
It is you.
Okay, thank you. I wonder how many Marks might be in the room. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Kirkwood. I'm the Programme Manager over here at Nottingham Energy Partnership, a charity based in the city centre, but we do work throughout the county helping households access affordable warmth solutions and other support.
Thank you, Mark. And I know your colleague had emailed and said you probably got to dive out at some point for another meeting, but you're very welcome. Stay as long as you're able. That'd be lovely.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, please. You're on mute, Matt. I can't hear you. I think you look like you froze, but it is still on mute. Can't. Well, Matt's from Joel, who are support charity for those suffering bereavement, child bereavement and baby loss. Is that right, Matt? Thank you.
Hello, I've just about sorted it. Sorry, yeah, there was a bit of a delay on it. Yeah, apologies. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm CEO and co-founder of the charity Joel Complete Package, and we support families through pregnancy and parenting after baby loss. Thank you, Becky.
Thanks, Matt. And over to you, Nikki, please.
Hello, I'm Nikki Rushin. I'm an alcohol recovery coordinator at Change Grow Live, the substance misuse charity in Worksop, and I cover Worksop, Retford and Newark.
Thank you very much, Nikki. And Rebecca Allen, please.
Yeah, my name's Rebecca, so I'm the Hospital Social Prescribing Manager for BCVS.
Thanks, Becky. And Rebecca McGlone, please.
My name's Becky and I'm a volunteer from the Heart Charity who helps family and children in the Bassetlaw area.
Thank you. And then Steve, please.
I'm Steve Williams. I'm the Centre and Project Manager at Oasis and the Edge Charities in Worksop.
Thanks very much. I think I've got everybody. Is there anybody that I have missed? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. Do you want me to do it? Andrew, you're on mute. I don't know if you...
Sorry, Lee and I are down for joint welcome, so I think we'll keep it short and sweet. It looks like actually on the main a very different group from who was in the Health Inequalities Forum yesterday, so that's good in that you won't be hearing the same things again. And I was going to suggest if there was a lot of overlap, we could cut some of the items short, but I don't think many of us were there yesterday. Is that correct? Okay. I'm just going to drop in the chat the link to the terms of reference for voices. We last met in February, so this is the web page where you can find the terms of reference if you haven't seen them before, and also recordings and presentations from previous meetings. And we'll post the recording from this meeting on that site. Lee, would you like to add anything by way of welcome? Sorry, I can't see you. Disappeared off my screen.
You're on mute, Lee.
Oh,
Don't swear. Well done. You didn't
I'm
swear.
having a bad day. I'm in office and I'm all of a flummox when I'm here. Just to say welcome everybody, and yeah, I agree, Andrew. I don't think that we'll be repeating, which was my concern yesterday in what I was going through. What I did say, and you couldn't hear me, was only you will have heard it several times, and you could probably recite it in your sleep.
I think Jane was there as well, so sorry, Jane. You'll have heard some of this yesterday, but that was probably us. As we agreed last time and agree in principle, we flipped the agenda to start with partner updates and the space for you to bring any issues, opportunities or updates to the rest of the group. And then we'll work through the agenda with updates on a range of subjects from Lee, and finally over to me with a summary of areas of work we're supporting the sector through and updates from our end at BCVS. So we can always come back to you, and obviously it's an interactive forum. It's quite a long slot. We might not need the 2-hour slot, and we certainly won't keep you if it's not needed. But we'll kick off with partner updates and issues and opportunities. So who would like to go first?
I don't mind.
Mark's popped his hand up, so if I come to Mark and then I'll come to you, Steve. So Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I figured if we just get in there first while there's a bit of a gap space in the proceedings. I mean, it's really coming along today. Just to flag some of the work we're doing in Bassetlaw at the moment, or very soon. So we are finished. So like I said, we're a fuel poverty charity based in the city. We have done quite a bit of work in Bassetlaw before. We do send a few referrals over to Bassetlaw Citizen Advice, I think, for help with benefit and debt support. So that's not our specialty. We have been working with Bassetlaw Council on the previous HUG and LAD scheme, if you've heard of that, which is the government scheme to provide those larger energy efficiency measures to households on a low income and with a low energy efficiency. So we're helping to wrap that phase of the scheme up at the moment, because HUG has to finish by the end of this month, and LAD 3, as it is, has to be finished by September. Bassetlaw are currently gearing up, the local authority are currently gearing up for HUG phase 2, and we're working with them on trying to help develop a delivery plan and targeting. And I think we're looking to help. It's a 2-year project. I think in the first year they're looking to help around 80 households throughout. I think the focus may be on Elksley and Mattersea Thorpe, but obviously we'll be keen to find anyone and everyone in Bassetlaw who might need support in upgrading their home. So the idea is it's going to be a sort of a whole house retrofit approach for anyone who's off gas. So off gas properties who are on a low income, that is under 31,000, or they live in a postcode that is one of the lower super output areas belonging to the IMD levels 1 to 3, so on a low income, according to government statistics. They'd be automatically eligible. So any of those households will eventually be able to come through to us and hopefully receive one of a number of measures. That could be cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, solid wall insulation, solar panels or air source heat pumps. That's a low carbon heating option. And all of that will be completely free of charge for the client, for the householder. We can also accept private tenants, and the landlord will have to make a 1/3 contribution to the work. So that's not, if it's going to officially launch, but we're not actually reaching out to people just yet, but just to put it out on everyone's radar here, by the time we next meet, it will have probably launched and be focusing on, you know, generating leads. So if you've got anyone in your kind of database, or you come across anyone who might want that sort of support, we'd be happy to take them. I will pop a link to the website when I get a chance, so you can see, you can find us hopefully at a later date. That's one thing. We also are just finishing off something called the boiler optimization scheme in the county. So anyone who might want a free 15-minute home visit just to tweak the settings on their boiler. You may have seen all the information in the news and from the government campaign to say, you know, you can switch your settings to save, you know, 10% on your heating bills over the year. So we're helping with that by offering home visits for people who might not feel comfortable making the changes themselves, and obviously seeing what else we can help with at the time. So again, I'll pop a link into the chat so you can find us there as well. That's running for the next sort of week or so. So if you've got anyone who you think might benefit from that, do feel free to send them through, and we'll try and attend to them before the scheme closes. Other than that, we are obviously still trying to help anyone and everyone with income maximization, so we can still help with things like water bill discount applications and getting them signed on to things like the priority service register, and then we'll always put them on a waiting list for, you know, future services if anything becomes available. So like, for example, if anything is made available for people who are on gas, who have gas into a heating system and want some additional support, that might be available in the near future, because we're working to sort of set up a proper referral pathway for things like Eco4, which is the sort of next round of, you know, government funding, government subsidies for similar energy efficiency work. So a lot of things sort of in the fire and trying to get started. So I'll put some links in the chat, and if you've got any questions, I can answer them, but otherwise happy to take referrals. We're also looking to see if we can set up some more firm, you know, agreements with charities, voluntary organizations that, you know, might want to work on referring back and forth for clients that might benefit from the services that we both provide. So yeah, thanks for having me. Any questions, I can take them.
Thanks, Mark. I've just got one. I'm just going to pop in the chat the email address for our newsletter and bulletin, because I think what would be really good would be for us to get on the front foot with the schemes that are on offer and be able to quickly share them out to the public and to the sector, so that we know what's coming rather than us chasing down and trying to find. So if I put that in the chat, that'd be fab, and then that will go into the broad voluntary sector bulletin that goes out across all of Bassetlaw. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll pop that there now. Any other questions for Mark?
I just had one, and I might have missed this, Mark, but what is HUG?
Oh, yeah, sorry. There's the problem with being in these schemes for so long, you just get used to the acronyms, right? So HUG is the Home Upgrade Grant Scheme, which is central government. So just as a very, very quick contextualisation, central government, so that's DESNZ or the department, allocated funding to 5 regional hubs, of which ours is Midland Net Zero Hub, and they're based in the city council offices in the city centre. And they are working with lots of different local authorities throughout the Midlands, like Derby, Shire and Nottinghamshire, different local authorities, to deliver the scheme. So HUG is the off-gas variant of this scheme that was launched, you know, a couple of years ago, the Green Grant Scheme, to provide these energy efficiency measures. So there's the LAD, which is the Local Authority Delivery Scheme for green grants, which is your on-gas properties, and HUG is the Home Upgrade Grant Scheme for the off-gas properties. Don't know why I need all these different names, but there we go. And so what's happening is the government they're closing LAD, that is the on-gas property scheme, and that has to be finished by September. All the installs have to be done, tools down, and they are carrying on HUG for another 2 years. So for another 2 years from May, or well, it was April, sorry, there is the option for off-gas properties to access this funding. But as of yet, we don't know of any on-gas funding that's out there. We'll obviously keep looking, but so it's limited a little bit, but there'll be another 2 years worth of funding for off-gas properties in certain areas, most likely. So that's why we're just trying to get out as many people as possible and promote the scheme, just so we can, you know, because we want to be able to show that we can deliver with the local authorities, so that we can then hopefully get, you know, additional funding and maybe broaden things for next time. So yeah, that's what HUG is. Sorry, didn't explain.
Sorry, I've got one question for you as well. Is it the challenges of double chairing online? It's a lot easier in the real world, isn't it, Lee? So just pick it up whenever you like. How do you know how many households are eligible in Bassetlaw? Is my question.
We're currently
Roughly.
having a look at the data. I can't from the top of my head tell you, but we're currently looking at, because the government provided data for the off-gas postcodes with properties in IMD 1 to 3, so those that are automatically eligible just based on their postcode. And there are quite a few on that list. We haven't yet got to the stage where we're sort of mining that data we're actually talking to a company supporting with the delivery of the scheme at the moment to actually map that data. So I can probably tell you in a couple of weeks how many households we're looking at. I'm working with the local authority to try and obviously identify certain areas. They are keen to focus on a number of particular areas because that's where they see the priority lying. But if we come across other areas that look like they should be focused on, what we're looking at as well. But apologies, I can't answer that question right now, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine. It's good to know just in terms of scale. We're obviously working with your target audience, so
Sure. I mean, in the first year, I think we're aiming for about 80 households, and in the second year, it's a little bit more. I think about 120. So I think overall, we're looking to have about 200 households over the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
In Bassetlaw. Yeah.
Steve, over to you.
I've got lots of pieces of news today. Our Oasis befriending project's up and running, and it's already been amazing how many people have come through for that. So we're taking referrals and also taking in volunteers or paid staff to do one-on-one befriending. So if anyone has anyone there. Operation Oasis is going strong with the food boxes still, lots and lots of need there. We have a creative play day at the end of July for children. We got 5,000 from the Lego Foundation to do a one-off play day for Bassetlaw families and children. So that should be a really great day, absolutely free to everybody to come to. We'll advertise that in the next couple of weeks. The building work at the Edge is nearly completed, everyone will be pleased to know. We did nearly £60,000 worth of work on car parks and cladding buildings and all sorts of things, even putting an electric point in. If you've got an electric car, you can use our electric now. So the Lifeline projects there with woodworking and DIY skills should come on shortly. All of our Lifeline projects are up and running and busier than usual as well. We've just had we've just signed a contract with Vita and Talking Therapies, so we've got some link workers now referring between ourselves, Rhubarb, and 1 or 2 other places, and the Talking Therapies for the counselling side of things. So if anyone needs to know more about that, they can contact us. Also, one interesting thing, it's slightly embargoed till I think 2 days time, but we should be on Calendar News on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. And it's a competition, lottery competition, where we're in with a chance of 5 charities. Our film goes out on Tuesday, 2-minute film, but we need as many votes as we can get. The project is all about creative connections. So we want it to be like a Bassetlaw project where everyone can get involved, because most of us use arts and crafts or music or drama or dance or whatever in lots of the therapeutic stuff that we do at some level. So we've put this project together where we could do a sort of a whole year of Bassetlaw creative arts programs and festivals and things, and the top prize is 70,000, so that's quite a good prize if we could get it, but we'll need as many votes as we can possibly get. So I'll get somehow, we've got 2 weeks to get the votes in, so it's not very long. We'll send out something to everyone, so if you can get people to vote for us, it's not just for our project but much wider. With that kind of money, we could do something really good in Bassetlaw, I think, over a year. And what else? Lastly, I wanted to say, because I don't think they're here, but In Sam's Name is going really well at the Edge project. That's one of the projects that is there on our base, as well as our own project. But they've started In Sam's Name for Her, so alternate Thursdays. There's one for men, one for women. Both are all about just talking things through. really as a preventative to depression, suicide, where people have a safe place to just talk out what they're thinking. It's been really, it's a really great project. It isn't my project, but we're hosting it and we give them space at the Edge. But there is a women's side to that now, so I'm sure that will go really well too. So yeah, thank you. That's me.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We'll take that as an action actually and flag with Rachel to
Mm.
work her magic on social media. If you can send us the
Thank
link
you.
as soon as it's live, we'll get it out there.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Brian.
Oh, yeah. Just to let you know, the sleep charity's here again for Bassetlaw, which is great news for us. Just to say, we've got some places for some one-to-one help for children, but we've also got a small number of training places available for professionals. A couple for those working with primary age children, and a couple for slightly older teens, if you like. And I suppose next on our agendas, 20th of May, we're coming down to a workshop. It's called Bracebridge Recreational Park. There's a group there called Funtopia. We're joining them for one of their events, so we'll have our stand up there, offering support and information to families. But we'll also be doing some sticking and gluing, for want of a better word. We'll be making some worry dolls and dream catchers and things like that for the children to entertain them while the parents get to talk to a sleep practitioner. So yeah, that's us.
Fantastic.
Brian, I'm sure I saw something which was I thought was a really good resource, which was actually a book aimed at adults around adults' sleeping patterns. That was, I'm
always
sure
forget about the adults. Yeah, I always forget about the adult stuff because it's brand new to us, isn't it? So yeah, that's just been released a couple of days ago, which is an ebook that Lisa, our deputy CEO, has helped produce. Yeah, all about adult sleep. So because we deal with so many parent and carers that have sleep issues with their children, they inevitably have sleep problems as well. So we've produced a sleep book to try and help them when we fix their kids. Hopefully, they can educate themselves and fix their sleep as well after all that habitual bad sleeping. Yeah, it's really good book actually. Loads of information in there and good quality information, which is sorely lacking if you Google how do I get to sleep. So yeah.
Are you able to share a link in the chat, Brian?
Absolutely will do.
Thank you. And then what we'll do afterwards, because people watching this later won't be able to access the chat, we'll add all the links as in summary notes to for colleagues. But that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, over to you. I think you might be having audio issues again. Are you frozen?
Nightmare.
Did you want to come in? Sorry, your hand's disappeared.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. We can't hear you. Sorry, Matt.
We did briefly hear you, Matt.
Yeah, we did. Let me go to Rebecca for a minute and then we'll come back to you, Matt. Hopefully it'll resolve itself. Teams is having a moment this week, isn't it? Rebecca, can I bring you in?
Yep. We've got our charity open day on the 22nd of May. It's going to be 10 till 2. If anyone like to attend it, it's for From the Heart charity. We've got we recently got funding from the National Lottery Community Fund, where we've got a premises for 5 years. So we're inviting like organisations and individuals from the community. You can bring leaflets because we're just in the process of getting like leaflet stands and stuff. And we're going to be reopening our drop-in centre and like coffee mornings and all our events there. So we want to like gather people together so they can find us, and then we want to like have a chat with like organisations and things to see where we can do partnerships, and then obviously display things where if we couldn't help them because we run on donations and funding, we could signpoint them to other organisations in the community. So if anyone wants to come down to that and they can bring leaflets, we can display them and we can see where we could work in partnership together to help more in the community.
Becky, are you still based around the corner from where we are? Are you still on
we are at the minute, but we're just in the process. We've had a nightmare really with our new office, with like carpet and stuff and getting it done. But we are still there for the time being, but we are like slowly moving. We're on Gateford Road, it's number 48, but we've got like the From the Heart charity signs and stuff up there. We moved on Gateford Road, so we're more closer to like the town centre, where we'll be more accessible for people, because in the bit round the corner from you, it was only a small room, and like getting down you'd have to go like an alleyway and stuff, but this is more accessible for everyone. And with our like audits and stuff, most of the people what we help is like in that kind of area, so we wanted to go to like the hotspot so more people can come to us rather than struggling and not accessing help.
If you want any stuff promoting around the open day, Becky, if you want to either send it to me or send it to the newsletter address that I popped in the chat earlier, we can then get it out in the bulletin.
Yeah, thank you. We haven't posted on social media yet. We're doing it like at the end of this week, but when we've posted it, I'll send the poster across. That'll be good. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is I think he's dialed out, or maybe he'll dial back in again in a minute. Sorry, let's go to you, Nikki. Well, hopefully Matt sorts his
I just
connection.
wanted to say hi. It's the first meeting that I've come to from this, so I'm completely new. But I just wanted to say hi and say that part of my role as well is going out in the community more as well, engaging more in the community when it comes to alcohol. So for your staff, for your clients, anything like that, there's Alcohol Awareness Week coming up in July. If there's some way that we can support, I think a lot of people think of CGL, especially in workshop, and think more opiate users, that type of thing. But from my point of view, I'm talking the alcohol. Okay, so it's purely for people who are struggling, who may be struggling. If if we find that they're not too bad, then we can refer them to other places. We can signpost them. But I want to get out there to the 9 to 5 workers that can't go to the GP, can't go to their Rocky Health, and do a bit of training, a bit of one-to-ones, that type of thing. So I really just here to say, anything in the community, please email me. I'm just excited to come out and be more of a face to be seen, and do whatever I can do to help with alcohol abuse or issues.
You broke up a little bit there for me, Nikki. I don't know if you did for anybody else, but can I just check? Did you say you're able to deliver training and come out and do that, or?
Yeah, we can come out and have one-to-ones. So we just kind of want to keep it as chilled as possible, but to come out, talk to people about what we do in the area, what's available, because I find a lot of people think, well, if I've got an alcohol problem, or my partner's got an alcohol problem, if I go to the GPs, it'll come up on my records, I might lose my job, all these various things. You don't want to go to your Rocky Health, and a lot of people don't know what other support is out there. So Change Grow Live, we are one of many. If there are family members who are struggling, there's Hetty's in Mansfield. There's so many different places, and I want to get out there and be more known, that people know in our area in Bassetlaw that CGL is here. We're not about opiate people just, or heroin users, and I want to get to those 9 to 5 workers who are at work, and then when we close our doors, they don't know where to go. So as much as I can, I want to get out there, seeing people. With Alcohol Awareness Week, we're doing a stand at Bassetlaw Hospital in July as well, and we're trying to get out to as many places as possible as well. So if there's anything out in the community that we could possibly have a stand, then we can bring our beer goggles, we've got unit glasses. It's just a bit of fun to raise people's awareness of how much they're drinking, and they might not realise they're drinking a bit too much. We find a lot of family members will come up and ask, well, my husband or my wife, I don't quite know where to go. We can signpost, or we can actually get you referred into CGL. So I think it's just trying to make the community realise what we are and the help that we can offer people.
Sorry.
Lee,
did you want to come in first? Sorry, yeah, Becky. Sorry, Noel, to keep you waiting, but were you coming back on that point then?
Yeah, sorry. I somehow keep getting put on mute, off mute, on camera, off camera. Can see someone who's speaking, can only see my own dot. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, Nicky, just literally whilst you was giving your update, our lead pharmacist came in to ask me where people could get support if they're addicted to sleeping tablets. GP won't take responsibility. CGL have said it's not them. And so I wondered if you knew where we might get that. Apparently they've been having prescription drugs, the husband's prescription drugs, and buying off the internet.
If it's something like opiates, then I would say CGL.
No, it's not an opiate.
Is it not an opiate? And it's a prescribed drug. Are they taking
sleeping
anything
tablets.
else?
I don't know. I've no idea. Literally, I just wondered if you would deal with any other addictions.
I would refer them to CGL, and then they'll have an assessment. And if there's something that we don't deal with, which is very rare, then we can signpost them. So I would initially get them referred to CGL.
Okay, thank you.
Because what you find, a lot of people will have something else. It might be the alcohol, it might be benzodiazepines. We deal with benzos, that type of stuff.
Right,
so
okay,
definitely go CGL.
Thank you. Sorry, that was a little bit extra to the alcohol plug, wasn't it? And then I know that we do have a lot of community events coming up because it's Move More in May. Let me get that shameless plug in. And so I'll send that over to you, Nicky.
Lovely. Anything at all, you know, we've got all the stands, we've got everything. We can make it as fun and light-hearted, not scary as possible. I think it's just trying to show people that we aren't this scary drug and alcohol service. We are approachable, we are here, and we are for the everyday person as well.
Thank you.
No, over to you.
Yeah, okay. So for people that don't know us, we are a charity based in Worksop that supports young people between the ages of 8 and 25. We've got a grant giving trust, which is one of our main bodies of work, where we give grants to young people and to local organisations that support young people. So it could be youth clubs, any kind of clubs that young people go to, and also individuals can apply to us for funding. That funding opportunity is open all year round. We don't have an opening time and a closing date for it. So we have board meetings every other month, and all the information is on our website about that. So so that's that part of what we do. So that we can give grants, we organise lots of events as well. And our next event is this Sunday. Had to think, but and this is in partnership with BCVS, ABL and other organisations. We are doing a Welbeck 10k fun run or walk around Welbeck, which is part of the Move More in May, as you've just mentioned. And we've got over 200 people signed up already, so we're really excited about that. And we're hoping to make quite a substantial amount of funding from that, so that can go into our grant giving trust. We're also going to be part of the Healthy Sunday day in July. So I'm working with a group of people that we're putting some plans together to be involved with that as well. After the fun run, our next event is in June. We have a charity golf competition, and that is at Kilton. So I send all the information usually to BCVS and it goes out. So, and it's on our website and what have you. But any questions? We're always willing to work in partnership with as many people as we can, because that is key to the work that we do. So hey, good to see everybody.
Thank you, brilliant, thank you. All the updates so far have been incredibly positive, which is really refreshing and lovely, isn't it? But it is the space, and it's great to hear so much is happening in spite of all the challenges. But just a reminder that if there are any issues you're facing, in particular increase in need or other challenges, this is a space for us to feed it back up into place, colleagues, and also into system. So maybe we'll do another quick round robin if there's any particular issues you're facing at the moment. But it is great to hear so much good stuff happening and new funding and resource coming in. Really inspiring, isn't it? Rebecca, did you want to come back in?
Just with the Move More in May, starting on Monday, I think, is it the 15th till the Friday, our charity volunteers are raising money for the charity, and we're doing, I think, 200 kilometers in them 5 days, like collectively, because our volunteers are mainly like special needs, like learning disabilities and stuff like that, and have like a range of disabilities. So it's trying to get them out in the community and get active in things. So we're doing, we did it 2 years. This is the 3rd year in a row now, and we try and raise £100, but we've always passed that. But like I say, it's to try and get the volunteers out, because they wouldn't usually be out with struggling with walking and things. So it's just like coming together as a team. But that just reminded me when we were on about the Move More in May.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'll chip in with our contribution. We are obviously sharing all the information about what everybody's doing, and it does feel like there's a real increased energy this year, isn't there? There's a lot more awareness and engagement with Move More in May. One of the things I shared yesterday was that in our whole staff day on Tuesday, we all went out for walking meeting. So rather than sitting in a hall and doing a group exercise, we went out for it was probably about a 40-minute walk in total, and then fed back afterwards. So it doesn't always take extra time or resources, just thinking about how we can build it into our working lives. And one of the issues, we've got loads of positive things to feed back as well, I'm glad to say, but one of the challenges that I know we're all facing is around staff wellbeing and workload, all the scale of need and demand that they're facing. So it's even more important to try and do what we can to build in that well-being, and moving more helps. I'm actually standing up today, so that's my effort. I'm not moving, but I am standing in a standing meeting. Rebecca, is that a new hand, or did you want to come back in there?
Oh no, sorry, I'll put it down now.
No worries, no worries. Okay. Any other updates or any other issues or challenges that you'd like to feed up through into colleagues at Place and System? Jane.
Hi, I just wanted to feed in that we have got a new befriending group in Worksop that is fortnightly. It might be really good to link with Steve with his new befriending that he's talked about earlier. So that is once a fortnight on a Friday afternoon. Got a big room at Aurora that's held in, so we can take plenty of people in there, as well as the other befriending we do that's face-to-face and telephone based befriending. And just to say that we did a pilot last year around military, it was some military transport lunch club trips using the minibus that's now more or less come to an end, but because it was so successful with the people wanting them, initially it was that they got the transport free and just had to pay for their lunch. We're then continuing them going forward, but there will now be a charge for the transport, which is going to be set at £6.50. So people will just pay a standard £6.50 and they'll be picked up at their door and took to the venue and returned home, and they'll pay for their lunch. So hopefully they will continue now there's a charge attached, and be as successful as they were before. So they are once a week, I believe, might be once a fortnight, I might be fibbing to you, but there's a leaflet on the website. So they go ongoing, as well as the standard day trips that we provide. And just to say, transport is picking up a little bit. It's took a time since COVID, but it is getting better. More people seem to be going out and doing that day-to-day stuff now. which is good to see. There is challenges around housing, and we have our housing project, which is always busy, and it's just with the challenges within housing. And I know we brought this up in our meeting that we had yesterday with other people that's involved in that. There is real delays among housing, which is very challenging for everybody, and I'm sure in all organisations there will be people that are unhappy with their situation, and it's not that easy to change because of the delays around housing and getting people moved into appropriate accommodation, or they just can't afford where they are. So I think we might all see more challenges around that going forward.
Thanks, Jane. You broke up a little bit for me there. Was everybody else here okay? Yeah, okay. It's obviously my end then. Apologies, it will record okay.
Can I just flag on? Jane, was it in? I can't remember which meeting it was in. Whether it was in the meeting we had as the BCVS and Action Centre, where we talked some element about housing. Whether it was in the social prescriber meeting. Was it in the meeting where we were together when Alex brought up the mortgage offer that was out there at the moment?
No, it wasn't in our meeting.
She brought it to the meeting afterwards that she'd flagged it. I can't remember which one it was, but I know the one of the building society, and I thought it was really interesting, are offering 100% mortgages without deposit, as long as somebody has within the last 18 months been consistently paying an amount of rent. And this is really, for me, it was a real interesting one, because there's a lot we know that people now who are renting are paying more than if they would have bought the property against a mortgage. So if I will bring it into the notes from this meeting as to exactly who that was, but hopefully we'll see more of those offers now. If that's something, normally if one organisation leads within the financial sector, others do follow. So for the no deposit required, and the evidence is simply that they've been able to sustain and afford rental payments of 12 of the last 18 months. They couldn't borrow an amount that meant the repayment was more than the rental payment, but that's just really useful when we're thinking about supporting people, because we know that there are challenges within that housing market and the private rental market, because the cost of being a landlord is increasing all the time, and housing is one of the key elements that underpins how well people are able to live their lives. So it's really important.
Yeah, it's really good to know. Thank you.
I'm hearing as well that I'm not sure how many issues there are in Bassetlaw at the moment, but that with the Ukrainian guest settlement scheme, securing accommodation and moving out of the host houses is also a challenge. So that scheme might be possible. Well, not yet maybe, but it'd be good to connect them into the networks that are supporting Ukrainian guests as well, because and there is going to be, on the long list of updates, colleagues at Bassetlaw District Council are going to be organising an employability focused event for Ukrainian guests. I've not got the date yet, but again, we'll circulate that, because as people stay longer and are starting to move into paid work, they will also, I'm sure, want to be renting and buying their own property sooner or later. Lee's dropped in the chat that it was on the news somewhere in Skipton. I'd not heard that, so brilliant. Oh, Skipton, is that the
Building Society? Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. That's really good news. Lots of good news this week. Good. Okay. Shall we hand over to you, Lee, for your presentations and updates?
Okay, I've got 3 presentations, and I'm not sure, I dropped an email, I'm not sure about the length of detail people wanted me to go into, but it is a new audience. But if it's all too much detail, or when I come to the place plan, then just tell me to hurry it along. And for you, Andrea, you can have a kip for half an hour. So just bear with me. I don't know if my screen will share now that I'm having all these issues. I'm hoping it does then.
Yeah, we can see that, Lee.
Brilliant. It's just that it's shared on the wrong screen to the one that I'm looking at. Anyway, let's persevere. So I'm not going to go through all these slides. There's only 2 really of relevance, and it's just to for awareness, really. So every area, every ICS has got to develop its own joint forward plan. And this diagram here is setting out really the context for that. So if we think about the government sets out the NHS mandate is given to NHS England to deliver on. NHS England determine what the long-term plan is and set the NHS priorities and operational planning guidance. So the long-term plan, it was a 10-year plan last time. Sometimes they'll do a 5-year plan, but every year they set out the priorities and operational planning guidance. Then as a ex-CCG, we used to have to, what is our plan? What are we doing? How are we going to deliver on what we're being asked to do and return that to NHS England, and then we'll to account for it. That'll be done at the ICB level now, as CCGs no longer exist. So the ICBs will have to develop their operational plan, which sets out how they're going to deliver the long-term plan and priorities and operational planning guidance that NHS England has required them to do. If we look at the left-hand side, let me see if I can move my mouse. If we look at the left-hand side, so the Integrated Care Partnership, not the Nottinghamshire Integrated Care Partnership, have already agreed their integrated care strategy. And what the joint forward view plan needs to do is identify how we're going to deliver on that integrated care strategy. And that's got to be completed by the 30th of June. So that's the plan. Essentially 3 principles underlying it. It's got to be fully aligned to the wider system, partnerships and ambitions. It's got to support subsidiarity by building on existing local strategies and plans. So that's thinking about our local place plans. And it's got to be delivery focused. So it's got to be really clear about how we're going to deliver up what the NHS planning guidance is. That's currently underway. What the rest of the slides aren't really pertinent to this group because it's literally, this was an internal presentation about what we're going to do, and it separates out who's going to do what within each of the joint forward plan. So we will expect a first iteration of that by June. So that's not very long if we think about all the chapters that will have to be brought together under that, but we do expect to have that by June, and obviously as and when that comes out we'll share that with partners. So if I stop sharing that one, and I'm probably not following agenda order here, am I? Because I opened up the PowerPoints before the meeting and thought I'll just go with whichever one comes up first. So moving on to, I'll go through the HIIF next. So moving on to the HIIF. So what happened this year is the ICB top sliced £4.5 million, which will be a recurrent amount for organisations to bid for, setting out within that bid how they would support health inequalities. So what the ICB did was it went out to a range of partners. So when I say partners, I'm talking public sector partners, more than wider sector partners, and said, put in a bid. So as always happens with these things, the bids were oversubscribed. There was a 10 million bid against a 4.5 million pot. So some of them had to be excluded and some were agreed to take forward, and some were agreed to take forward with conditions. So Bassetlaw's bid was essentially to take forward with conditions, and we had to submit that, having worked on those conditions, by the 5th of May. So that was last Friday. So it's been a very busy time. So in effect, what we're bidding for is to have an integrated neighbourhood team. So our primary care networks are going to provide us with two. It's really disconcerting because I can only see a dot and I can't see yourselves, but as long as you can see me try and describe this, they're going to be two core hubs. One will be in Retford, and that will consist of Retford and Villagers PCN, and one will be in Worksop, and that will be Larwood and Newgate coming together to deliver a core hub. Those core hubs will deliver up all the clinical elements that are required for patient wellbeing and health and wellbeing. And then what this bid is for is to have integrated neighbourhood teams which will wrap around those hubs. So what we've proposed is that we want 3 integrated neighbourhood teams that align directly to our place plan priorities. So we will have a Start Well integrated neighbourhood team, a Live Well integrated neighbourhood team, and an Ageing Well integrated neighbourhood team. So the first slide that I'm showing here, this is an example of how that model might look. So the core access hub, for example, the GP practice may do the case finding to identify children and young people with respiratory issues who are living in decile 1-2 IMD and fuel poverty. And then they'll have an initial contact to say, would you like some support? And where they would hand that over to the integrated neighbourhood teams, which will be made up of a group of people or social prescribers, or it could be that people are given a personal health budget after they've been triaged and seen, and then they would access services within their community. For the children and young people, the areas of focus are obesity, mental health and respiratory. In the Living Well, I should move my slide along, shouldn't I? Sorry. In the Living Well area, the focus will be on people with severe multiple deprivation and also people diagnosed with a long-term condition in the last 12 months. Because what's known is if you intervene when people, it's ideally within the last 6 months, but we don't have that data available to us. If you intervene in that first 6 months of someone being diagnosed with a long-term condition, it's highly likely that they will be able to manage and self-care and not go on to develop further conditions and then multiple comorbidities. So, for example, if you intervened in a meaningful way when someone's first diagnosed with diabetes rather than just giving a medication and diet sheet, they're highly likely to be able to go on to manage their diabetes or even go into remission. So that's just an example and perhaps not a very good one. And then in the Ageing Well category, we'll be looking at people aged over 65, living in IMD decile 1-2 and fuel poverty, and are known to be severe or moderately frail. And the intent there is to improve their overall health and well-being, and where possible, try and move people away from severe frailty to moderate, from moderate to mild, for example. But certainly do those interventions that matter to them, and offer up a comprehensive geriatric assessment. I don't like geriatric as a term. So I'm going to say offer up a personalised care plan for that individual based on what matters to them and what would make the most difference. The place partnership development that is sat under here, this is aligned really more to the place plan than the INTs. And that's just saying how we'll work better together. So I'm going to skip through these slides and that one because that's out of date now anyway. Go to there we go. So for each of those cohorts that I've identified, these numbers here, the numbers that we know from ELScope, which is the GP's register data set. These are the numbers of people living in each of those areas that we would want to reach out to. So in Starting Well, it's 875, Living Well Severe Multiple Deprivation 215, Living Well with Rising Risk 745, and Ageing Well with a frailty score of moderate to severe, there are 845 people. Now it could be that some of these people are in the same households. We won't know until we start the work. So the plan is that for each of the INTs, irrelevant of when they go live, they'll go through a phase of mobilisation, implementation, embedding the change, and then reviewing the outcomes of the INT itself. Now, what we do know anecdotally from presentations that we've attended from King's Fund, for example, in NHS England, is that often the integrated neighbourhood teams don't show a return on investment for 6 to 10 years. So initially, because you're actively case finding, you're actively driving up activity in primary and secondary care, but hopefully you're driving it up at an earlier point so they won't become the dependency on health services. So moving on. So essentially, this is how the INTs are going to operate with the active care finding, case finding by the care coordinator, with, like I've just discussed, within the PCN. Patient are contacted and offered an initial review, and that can be either face-to-face or virtual, whatever suits the patient. And then from that initial review, the patient can either be signposted to appropriate service, or it may be that they have to be maintained within that core hub, that clinical field, rather than by the integrated neighbourhood team. But we won't know that until we start to do the work. So it depends what. Certainly, I think the frailty one that we're looking at for the living well, that's posing quite a few challenges in terms of it's not actually clinical services that they need. It could be housing, and we know that that's already a challenge, for example. The resources that we've identified on here are what we submitted as part of the HIIF bids. Some of this will be for an element of individual budget. So that's to make sure, in essence, you're recording, so I can't say this, but that's to try and ensure that we can get some sustainability and resilience within our VCSE, recognising that there's challenges from the funding that we haven't had available this year that we've had in previous years. So each of these INTs do have an element of personal health budgets within them, and social prescribing link worker elements. So that's what we've submitted. We don't know if it will be successful or not. We'll have to see how we go. We'll get to know in June. So before I move on, I've done 2 PowerPoints. Are there any questions from anyone before I move to the place plan?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, I don't know who's speaking, but please do.
Yeah, it's Rebecca from BCVS.
Oh, hello.
Hello, hiya. You know about the integrated neighbourhood teams? Are they, I don't know if I've understood this correctly, are they mainly going to be staffed by social prescribers who then would make onward referrals?
It would depend which integrated neighbourhood team it would be. So, for example, the Living Well SMD, yes, social prescriber link worker, because that makes absolute sense that that's that role. But then if you think about children and young people, if you look, sorry, just one moment. If you think about children and young people, and looking at obesity, mental health and respiratory, that could be working with ABL for or BPL for health and wellbeing coach, and equally dedicated asthma nurses. So it depends what the focus will be on. And then each year would hope to grow that into other cohorts and areas of need that we identify locally.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
No worries. No other questions? So I'll move on to the place plan. Bear with me. So the place plan has now been adopted by our partners. I'm moving screens with it because I can't be doing looking that way when I'm looking. By our place partners. So Cabinet adopted the place plan formally. There is one slide not yet completed on this, which is slide 11, but I can share this slide deck acknowledging that we've got slide 11 to do some further input. So at some point last year, the place partners came together to look at what our current place plan was, so the place plan for 22-23, whether that was still right, whether the objectives were still right, and what was it that we wanted to achieve in 23-24. We did, as part of that, have different views at different tables for what the vision should be, but ultimately landed on Bassetlaw Place Partners working together to enable everyone in Bassetlaw to live healthier and happier lives, to prosper in their communities and remain independent throughout life. That's a big sentence, isn't it? So this first slide deck here, place-based working within NOTS and NOTS ICS, this sets out where the place delivery team are in terms of what's their priorities and what do we need to focus on. Ultimately, our place priorities in terms of improving outcomes in population health, tackle health inequalities, enhance productivity, value for money, support broader social and economic development within place are the same as what the system priorities are. But we would focus purely on the Bassetlaw area. So if I move on, and I won't talk to all of this because it is very, very wordy, isn't it? This sets out really who our partners are, an example of what we might do to deliver change in Bassetlaw. We've included the key health challenges that we know, and I'm not going to go through these because I think our partners know them just as well, or if not more than I. We gave, when we presented to the ICB, we gave examples of what we've done in 22-23. And you'll see some of those things in there that you've worked on yourselves. And what we will be doing as well to showcase, brag about how fantastic our VCSE are. We're pulling together all the KPI reports and all the information that you've submitted throughout 22-23, and we're going to develop one Bassetlaw Place celebration report that we will be sharing with our ICB colleagues, which is essentially going to be saying this is why we can't do it without you. And please acknowledge the very important place that the VCSE in Bassetlaw has at our table. So we will be doing that. But moving back to this slide. So place priorities for 22-23. We've now decided that aligning to the Health and Wellbeing Board, we will have the 3 tranches: the starting well, living well, and aging well. The only difference in our starting well is it's not for the 0 to 6 or 10 that it is in the health and wellbeing strategy. By this we mean all children and young people up to the age of 25. So this is trying to just put in a very plain picture what it is that we're trying to do. So the starting well, the green area here, the green box then reflects what we're going to do in that arena. So that's we want to look at, because we know it's an issue locally, reducing asthma symptoms, including asthma attacks, and address over-reliance on reliever medication, inhalers. So that's a piece of work that we do need to undertake. We know we're a significant outlier. Stabilising the increase in childhood obesity rates. We recognise we're not going to reduce these just by doing an intervention in this year, but what we might be able to do is stabilise them to make sure that they don't increase in year. Promote ill health prevention, that runs through all of this. The health inequalities is that golden thread that runs through everything. And prevention and proactive intervention really are key in all these 3 cohorts. Prioritising those children in greatest need and increasing access to mental health support. For living well, again, no surprise, aligned to our HIIF bid. We're looking at working with people in severe multiple deprivation or are disadvantaged for other reasons, promote ill health prevention, reduce smoking prevalence, and increase access to mental health support. In ageing well, we know that we've got people who are socially isolated and lonely, so that's something that we wish to work on. Reducing emergency hospital admissions, we are a significant outlier for people over 65 presenting with late stage and in fact terminal cancer at ED. Increase digital confidence and competence, and increase support for those with severe to moderate frailty, aligned to the HIIF. You can see how we've been savvy in what we've done here, I hope. And then the last priority for us is to continue to work well together as partners. So we are recognised in NNN and actually outside of NNN as having a really strong partnership. But actually, if we stand still, everyone will catch us up, and we don't want to do that. We want to always be ahead. The next 4 slides break down what that delivery plan looks like locally. On the right-hand side of the screen are the metrics that we'll use to measure ourselves in how we deliver up what we've said are our delivery plan for 23-24, and that's in this box here. These boxes here signify whether this links to Core 20+5, the Health and Wellbeing Strategy, the ICP strategy, or Bassetlaw District Council strategic plan, because they also have an Health and Wellbeing strategic plan, and we need to work together. The resources are not infinite. So we've tried to pull it all together into one. You can see that children and young people, for example, Move More in May campaign, the campaign to increase physical activity, recognising the work that schools are doing around Move More in May, recognising Talk Zone are doing some fantastic work around Move More in May. So as well as the adults element, that is included in the children's element. Each of these things here you will recognise, you'll be fully aware of, and some of you will indeed be party to. I won't go through each of them individually. You can have a copy of this and read at your own leisure. Moving on to the living well, again, the metrics that we're going to monitor ourselves upon are on the right-hand side of the screen. The boxes indicate where these align, and you won't be surprised to learn that this also aligns with the HIIF in terms of development of the integrated neighbourhood teams. Cost of living is on here, what partners work on. A lot of these things here are where we could come together as partners to do better without additional resources, or indeed where we do need additional resources, how we plan to get those as partners together. A similar thing there for the Aging Well. Again, metrics on the right-hand side, the boxes to which strategy they align to. I think there's been some really good feedback from BDC around the place plan, where they said, well, you know, we know that the dementia prevalence in Bassetlaw is high. We know we've got an ageing population. Shouldn't we have something on there about carers? Shouldn't we have more on there about adult obesity, because it's not just children? So there's there are a lot of things that we would like to do, but whatever we put in our place plan, the ICB will hold us to account for. So in putting in the things that we're going to do together better, it's hoped that we could then at some point go back for resources to fund that. And sometimes it's better to be a little bit woolly than specific, maybe. And there's other areas as well where, as partners, we could do better. We're still working on the citizens panel. This is outstanding from last year, so I have to take full responsibility for that. Collaboratively monitoring risk and developing shared arrangements across a number of things. For example, comms and engagements data, staff induction, QI expertise, staff training. Where can we share that so that we're not having the expense of doing that individually as one? So those are the kind of things that as partners we need to be working on to ensure that we maximise resource and our impact. Obviously continue to develop and support VCSE within Bassetlaw, and a really key important thing is develop social value awareness and the ability to evaluate that and the impact. This is something that the ICB are really keen to see. However, no one's really got a identified tool or model that they want to use to do that. So I think that's me. Is that half an hour, Andrea? Have you had a break?
You're on mute, Andrea.
Oh dear. I was just saying, I always learn something new no matter how many times I listen to it, so it's always useful. There's so much detail, isn't there? So it's great that it's recorded and you can watch it back. But
yeah, what I will do, because I know
those newer,
I'll share it to
sorry,
you,
Nick.
Becky, if you can share it out.
Yeah, no problem.
Because I think that now it's been adopted, it needs to be in public domain, really, doesn't it? Because people need to say to us, well, you said you'd do that and you haven't. So I'll share it for those people who prefer to read rather than record as well.
And for those who were here at the February meeting, I think all of that just illustrates how far it's come in only a few months, because it was it's developed so much in those few months, hasn't it? Just wanted to come back to the point you flagged around the citizens panel, because that was discussed at the last Voices meeting, and I know that the project that's called a citizens panel that's been set up or developed by BAC, Aurora and Citizens Advice was discussed, and also the concept of our Bassetlaw citizens panel being a network of panels almost, depending on what you are discussing with the panel or need to discuss with the panel. Is there anything we need to do collectively or individually to help you to take that forward now?
I think what would be really useful is to have people who are willing to be contacted so that we can, my ideal would be that I am not a chair of this. I don't own this. That citizens themselves own it and use it to hold us to account a little bit. But also where we are looking at new services or new developments, we can go and say, what do you think about this? Or the ideal co-production is when it comes from communities and grassroots up, isn't it? Where people say, well, we want this, how can we do it? And we think this will work. So it's to have a bit of a two-way thing, but certainly to be citizen-led and citizen-owned, but equally involved in a meaningful way in our plans and what we're doing locally. So I think if people could share any contacts of people who would like to be a part of that, that would be super helpful. I know that Citizens Advice, Karen's led on that, and she was doing an update about the work that Karen had done on that. And they do have a couple of people, but similar to me, it's not a big range of people. And obviously, until people come to us, we can't have patient identifiable information. So without getting that consent first as well. So really, if you could support with that, that would be super helpful.
Okay, I think we probably just need to be clear with the groups and service users we support, because they're all citizens, aren't they? What the ask will be of them, what the commitment and involvement is, and is there a definition that's come up from system and any clarity about the difference between the citizen engagement that's led by Health Watch and what the citizens panels will do?
No, we've had nothing from the system at all, and they are piloting something, aren't they, in the city? I think if you look back to our place plan from last year, it was actually us that coined the phrase citizens engagement panel, and it's been used. But I haven't given it a lot more thought than that in terms of definitions, Andrea. Karen has shared as a starting point to say, okay, if we look at that, what is it that we would want different, perhaps, rather than reinventing the wheel? But I've got to be honest and say I haven't got round to reviewing that yet.
No, we've all got really long to-do lists, haven't we? It's more like, is there anything we can do to help take it forward? Because we are, and actually one of the things I'm going to update in my slot is around Shared Prosperity Fund, and one of the things we're doing already, or will be doing already, in Bolsover, because BCVS have secured the contract for delivery of the community grants programme in Bolsover. SPF has gone live in Bassetlaw now for the community grants tender, and others will follow, and I'll drop that link in the chat actually. But Bassetlaw, BCVS has shared that we'll be applying to lead that programme as well, the community grants programme, to ensure if we're successful, the most funding possible goes into the voluntary sector and stays in Bassetlaw. So the connection between that item and that update, and let me drop the chat now, and the citizens panel, if we want to make one, is that we'll be recruiting volunteers, citizens, to assess those community grants. So there's going to be yet another group of citizens engaged to ensure voice and need feeds into those decisions about small grants, certainly in Bolsover, hopefully in Bassetlaw, and maybe we can connect that into that kind of network of networks if we're clear about what the ask is. So colleagues, and I mentioned it last time, but for colleagues who weren't here, one of our colleagues, Marjana, particularly supports Eastern European and minority ethnic communities and community groups to develop. So has got reach into different communities, depending on what is it we want to talk to the citizens panel about. It might be just those groups on this occasion, or those groups over there on that occasion. Anyway, in terms of taking it forward, maybe we'll take it as an action that we read Karen's terms of reference, or that group's terms of reference, add any comments around what value we could add through the BCVS work, and share with wider members of the Voices Network, and see what else is going on that could add value, and any people that we think might be interested, and do that initial engagement with those citizens. And then we've got an action and some progress, hopefully, without more work.
Well, it won't fall off then, will it?
Okay. A lot to digest there. Any more questions for Lee? It's a huge transformation process moving, as we know, from South Yorkshire into Notts as ICSs and ICBs develop alongside places. So there's so much happening at the moment. I think one of the challenges for smaller groups is trying to stay on top of understanding what's happening and the relevance of it and the right time for them to engage and feed into those discussions. So I had feedback between Last Voices and this one that one of the groups we work with still doesn't understand what difference is the ICB going to make to us on the ground in Bassetlaw, was the kind of comment. For those who aren't directly funded through the NHS. So all of this is absolutely integral to how funding will flow in the voluntary, between the voluntary sector and the NHS, but also will influence activities that aren't directly funded, but that align strategically. But there's an awful lot of jargon, an awful lot of words, and that's our challenge for us at BCVS. How do we translate that complexity in a timely, accessible way to wider and smaller groups that don't have the resource or time to stay engaged with it? Does anybody else have any thoughts? Sorry, I can't see either. A lot of screens are off at the moment.
Yeah, I can't see any ands.
It's a nice segue into well, nice is always subjective, isn't it? But nice segue into how our sector, the voluntary community sector, engages with the NHS and the ICB at system level. It was just a brief update from me. So shall I kick off my list? I don't have a presentation today, it's a verbal presentation.
Everyone's dropped off since I did mine, Andrea, haven't they? I've bored everyone to make a coffee.
No, maybe we should have had a comfort break, actually. Is everybody okay? It goes very quickly, actually. We're already, 1 hour 20 into the meeting. So it will be brief headlines, and a lot of the detail that sits under our updates goes out in our newsletter every Friday to groups in Bassetlaw. So if you're not signed up, please do. Shameless plug to do that. So I have got a list of verbal updates for you. First of all, we still have relationships with South Yorkshire, particularly around children and young people, Cancer Alliance work, potentially maternity in the frame of children and young people, particularly. And there is a separate VCSE Alliance for South Yorkshire which will be having an event in June. So for any colleagues that are working still into the South Yorkshire footprint, that's a good opportunity to go along, re-engage with those key stakeholders who both hold the purse strings and are shaping the whole kind of policy and framework in which that work operates and is funded. And we'll share that information with you. I had a really useful catch up with Karen Smith, who's the lead for the South Yorkshire VCSE Alliance engagement work happening within the system up there. The other bit of news from so many acronyms, apologies, shout at me every time I say an acronym, but the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire ICB, Integrated Care Board, is that there's an event happening on Monday. Hopefully you've seen that, but we're not cited yet on who is going from Bassetlaw. BCVS will be going down, flying the flag for Bassetlaw and sharing a lot of information about what you will do. Is anybody else on the call attending that event on Monday? No, okay. It's going, I'd say it's going really well, with a new place on the block still, really, I would say, Lee, aren't we? In terms of Nottinghamshire, but we certainly they know we're here. we've engaged a lot, we've raised a lot of awareness so far, but there's always more work to do, so we'll keep doing that, and we'll feedback on what happens on the day. In terms of the VCSE Alliance, the Alliance meets so the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire VCSE Alliance, which is the mechanism to engage with system at Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. That's open to CEOs and senior leaders within the voluntary sector. Several colleagues from Bassetlaw do attend. So Karen from Citizens Advice, Lynn from Bassetlaw Action Centre. Who else? Nick from Mind. So several colleagues are there, and I'm always there as well. And it's another really good opportunity to keep up to speed with what's happening, how it's developing, and opportunities for collaboration and working across system. Also, in theory, and hopefully soon in actuality, in shaping the strategies and the commissioning that comes back out of system. That's the point. We're not just there as providers, we are meant to be and are equal partners around the table. They have just appointed a chair, a remunerated post after going through a recruitment process, and that chair is Professor Daniel King from NTU. He is the lead, or one of the leads, on the observatory and does the cost of living, state of the sector, national research for the voluntary sector. So he's got a really good understanding of the challenges we face. And I'm optimistic that that means that there'll be some really positive developments proceeding at scale there through the VCSE Alliance. So that is good news for us as a sector, I believe. Just seeing Nikki's message, apologies, missed that, Nikki, but thank you. Nikki's had to go. Becky, do you want to say anything about, give a brief update on the cost of living event and the VCSE Health and Wellbeing Forum? I'll hand over to you for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Just make sure I'm not on mute when I look at another screen. No, I'm not. So the cost of living workshop, not actually written down the date of that.
29th of June.
Thank you. Is the provisional date put in? It's an event that follows on from the initial one last year that culminated in a number of initiatives, including the booklet, the warm packs, and lots of work and people communicating, coming together, warm spaces across the district. So we're coming again, review the learning from the activities that have happened so far, that we did to respond for those impacts, and then reflect on that learning and think about what we do to prepare for next autumn and winter. So even if you aren't necessarily going to be in that meeting or able to attend that meeting, we'd really welcome any contributions from partners that you would like us to take up to that meeting. We can email it into myself, email it into Andrea, and then we can feed that back up. So any experiences, any things you think that we didn't do or we could do much better and more broadly, that'd be really good to feed that up. What was the other thing? VCSE Health and Wellbeing Forum. So we relaunched. Some of you will remember we used to run before COVID. Remember that we used to run what did we call it? A Health and Social Care Forum on a quarterly basis. We relaunched last month in April with as the VCSE Health and Wellbeing Forum. It was face-to-face down here at BCVS. It will be held quarterly, and it was a great event. Over 30 people attended, with 25 organisations represented from across our place and system as well. So some from NOTS, a couple of really good presentations. Well, no, one really good presentation, and I did a bit. So Angie from BPL presented. I did a bit of a VCSE sector overview and update. And then there was an opportunity for organisations to update themselves and then to network. And it's aimed at an officer level. So it is the opportunity for those people who perhaps wouldn't attend normally the health inequalities meeting, or wouldn't sit up into some of the higher level meetings, to be able to come together face to face and come back and discuss what the concerns, what the challenges are. So it was really well received, very useful for networking for any organisations that are new to area or any officers that are new to area. Our next meeting is on the 19th of July, from 9:30 in the morning until 12. If anybody that's not on my contact list would like to attend or wants the information, just need to drop a line into either bcvs@bcvs.org.uk or me. I'm becky.law@bcvs. So just get an email into the organisation. It will find its way up to me. Don't think there's anything else I need to share with you about that one. Do you want me to talk about the volunteering event, or do you want to come back to that?
Yes,
Andrew?
no, you can go for that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to share very quickly, if I can find it. So there's that we've got on the 6th of June, we have volunteer as part of National Volunteers Week. We've got an event up at the town hall, and part of that is some volunteer awards. So hopefully on the screen at the moment you can see the flyer for that, which just reminds us that the deadline is the 14th of May, and what the categories are. Let me flick to that one. Has it moved on to the actual recruitment one now? Hopefully it has. And that just what we're now really asking organisations for is to get people to come along and attend. I know many of you are booked on with the stand, which is fantastic. We're at max. We've squeezed as many in as we can do, moved things around as much as we can. But now we need the general public to attend. So we need people to come along to talk to organisations about volunteering. And you can see that part of the event is from 11 in the morning till 1:30. After that, then we move into the awards. We've badged it with an incentive, so everybody is a visitor that attends, they'll go into a draw to win a gift card. So please, if you haven't already seen it, please share it out onto your networks. It's on our Facebook page. It'll have come out in our bulletin. We have hard copies of the flyers with both, which are two-sided. So if you pick one up and think this doesn't tell me the bit I want to know, which was what I did, turn it over. The other bit's on the other side. So I think that's about it for that. We've got good numbers of nominations in, so anybody that has nominated, thank you very much. We really, really appreciate the fact you've taken time to put your volunteers forward, but we are certainly still open for more nominations if anybody else wants to nominate him.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky. It sounds, it's often framed as something that's desirable and nice to do in terms of recognising and rewarding volunteers, but actually, as we all know, it's essential to show that we value and appreciate existing volunteers, celebrate their successes, and then those successes hopefully inspire new volunteers to get involved. And they're such a huge resource for our sector, but also one of the 5 ways to wellbeing, and volunteering itself develops positive wellbeing and skills. So it's really, really important for us as infrastructure and our whole sector, and thank you as well from me for that. The other flip side of resources, of course, money. I touched on SPF earlier, and Shared Prosperity Fund, which sits under the Levelling Up programme, will have various opportunities for the wider sector to access funding, which is great news. There's the community grants that I've already spoken about, and whomever is successful with that will be administering a small grants programme for the voluntary sector in Bassetlaw. There's also a new Arts and Heritage Officer who's been recruited by Bassetlaw District Council, who will lead on a small grants pot specifically for arts and heritage projects, Georgina Lancaster, and she's reaching out to colleagues across the sector to raise awareness of what she'll be doing, and I'll be meeting with her as well next week. And there will be slightly later than community grants, the whole business support programme and funding and resource attached to that. And although that doesn't immediately sound like it's for the voluntary sector, if you're trading as an organisation, i.e. charging for anything, you will be eligible to apply for those grants too, or you should be. Devil's in the details sometimes, but there's at least 3 opportunities there imminently on the horizon for the voluntary sector to access resource, so that's great news. And the council and colleagues at the council, in addition to place colleagues, have been very supportive of ensuring that the sector is involved at every stage in design, development, delivery of those proposals. So we're really fortunate in Bassetlaw, as we know. My other device with my agenda on's just died, sorry, so I'm going to have to flip screens for a minute and check my list of updates. We talked quite a lot about Move More in May, so I won't add anything more to that unless colleagues would like to feed in anything additional that they're doing. We had an action actually that came out of the last Voices again, an ask from colleagues, place colleagues to develop and share videos to feed into a system presentation and paper that was made. And I went along with Dave Armiger and Victoria McGregor-Riley to make that presentation, and it went over very, very well, I have to say. They were really impressed with the strength of partnership working and everything we're doing as a sector in Bassetlaw. So those videos exist, and we'll share those again. They were either created for that purpose or repurposed existing videos. We're also now moving forward, going to support the sector to create some new videos. So raising awareness of what we do and the difference we make is a really important part, as we know, of attracting and protecting the resource that we have. And that will be another action that we'll take forward over the next few weeks. I've had conversations with various colleagues and a list of who's going to be involved in that. Just checking my notes. I think that's it actually from us. They're the kind of headline messages at the moment, except finally just to confirm again that the next BCSE Alliance meeting in Nottinghamshire is early June. So if you have got any needs or any views, anything you want us to feed in and you're not able to go yourself, please do let us know and we'll do that for you. So that was very brief for me. Gosh, 10 minutes. Any questions on any of that? And I'll put links to all of those, either opportunities or information in the notes that go out after this. No, stunned silence. There's a lot of information to pass on to you, but thank you. Okay, so sorry, I'll flip back to my agenda. I think we're at AAB actually, rather early. But any other issues or any other business that partners want to bring to the table?
No.
Generally, just as a kind of sum up really, so much has happened since we last met in February, like the Voices meeting in February, and so many positive things. It's great news actually. We know we've got huge challenges in our sector, challenges around funding cuts, increased demand, but there are a lot of new opportunities that have been developed as a result of a really strong partnership over the last few months, and they're going to start, hopefully, fingers crossed for HIF and everything else, they'll start to be realised over the next month or two. So we're working really hard collectively as a sector to fill that hole in resource and help meet that demand, and it is starting to pay dividends. So thank you to everybody who's been involved in that. And as Lee says, we've got to keep out there at the front, aren't we?
Yeah.
In terms of the brilliant stuff we're doing.
Can't let people catch up. Yeah, just exceptional work that VCSE and Bassetlaw are doing, and it is acknowledged and recognised, and thank you to everybody.
Okay. So shall we close the meeting early?
Yeah, I would say so.
Fantastic. And hopefully see lots of you there on Sunday for a very slow walk or a wave if you're just if you're just a bystander supporting us. I'll be a slow walker, I think.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stop recording now as well.